All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of doubt as, well, a bad thing, right? Like a weakness or this shadow hanging over belief. But what if I told you it has its own history? A really powerful, kind of hidden history that has completely shaped the world we live in.
I mean, that's what we're taught, isn't it? That doubt is just an empty space where faith is supposed to be. It's a problem that needs fixing. But is that really all there is to it? Because, you see, when you actually trace doubt through history, you find something totally different. It turns out doubt isn't just an absence of something. No, it's an active force. It's this engine, a catalyst for incredible discovery, for new philosophies, and even for revolutions. So where does our story begin? Well, it doesn't start with just one person having a moment of uncertainty. It starts with something much bigger, a collision of entire worlds. This is where doubt so often gets its spark, its explosive power, when totally different cultures, each with their own set of absolute truths, suddenly crash into each other. Let's take the Hellenistic age as a perfect example. In just a handful of decades, Alexander the Great, he didn't just conquer land, he completely shattered these cultural bubbles that had existed for centuries. He just mashed everyone together. Greeks, Persians, Egyptians, you name it. And boom, suddenly you have this huge, sprawling, cosmopolitan world. And this quote just nails the problem that pops up, right? If my universal truth says we rest on Saturday, and your universal truth says we rest on Sunday, we're both going to notice that. It's a glitch in the system. And it makes you wonder, wait a minute, who's actually right here? Is anyone right? And that leads to this huge shift. Think about it. You go from living in the Polaris, your small, tight-knit city-state, where truth is just, well, what you've always been told, to this new cosmopolitan world, this giant, chaotic network where you're bombarded with conflicting traditions every single day. The old certainties, they just couldn't survive that kind of pressure. So all this new uncertainty meant people needed new philosophies, new ways to live. And that's where guys like Diogenes the Cynic come in. His idea? True freedom comes from rejecting everything society tells you to want. And then you had Epicurus, who said, look, the key to happiness is conquering fear. Fear of the gods, fear of death, all of it. And get this. This quote really shows you how powerful Diogenes' doubt-fueled philosophy was. Alexander the Great, literally the most powerful man in the world, looks at this guy who owns nothing and lives in a barrel, and he sees a kind of freedom that all his power can't buy. That is the incredible power of doubting what everyone else says is important. So for a long, long time, doubt was a reaction. It was something that happened to you. But then, as we head into the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, something really fundamental changes. Doubt gets an upgrade. It's forged into a tool. Yeah, it wasn't just this vague feeling you got when you ran into someone with different beliefs anymore. It became a deliberate, systematic method for figuring out what's really true. A whole new way of thinking that was about to change, well, everything. And nobody wielded this new tool quite like René Descartes. His approach was just radical. Step one, doubt absolutely everything. Your senses can lie, your memories could be fake, you could be in a dream right now. But, and here's the brilliant move, in all of that chaos, one thing is left that you absolutely cannot doubt, the fact that you are doubting. And if you're doubting, you must exist as a thinking thing. Dubito ergo sum. I doubt, therefore I am. Honestly, this was like a philosophical earthquake. The basis for truth was no longer some sacred book or a king or a priest. It was right here, inside the individual's own mind, using doubt as its most powerful instrument. Authority just shifted from the outside world to the inside. And you see thinkers like Galileo taking this idea and running with it. I mean, this quote is perfect. He's drawing a line in the sand. He's saying, listen, religion and science have two different jobs. One's about how to get to heaven. The other is about how the heavens actually work. This created space for science to be based on evidence and observation, not just dogma. And the impact was just enormous. Get this. Back in the 1620s, a scholar named Marin Mersenne estimated that there were 50,000 atheists in Paris alone. Now, Paris only had about 400,000 people then. Whether that number is perfectly accurate or not, it tells you something huge. This deep culture of questioning wasn't some fringe idea anymore. It was going mainstream. So what's the end game here? What's the lasting legacy when doubt isn't just a tool, but a core part of your culture? Well, in a lot of ways, the question itself becomes the answer. And that legacy is basically the modern world as we know it. This idea of methodical doubt, it's the engine that drove the scientific revolution. It's the beating heart of the Enlightenment. It gave people the intellectual firepower to challenge the idea that kings were chosen by God, which opened the door for democracy. It's the reason we put so much value on human reason and hard evidence today. And that brings us right back to now. When you look at this whole history, you can't help but ask, if that kind of cultural collision creates this massive wave of doubt, what on earth does that mean for us today? Because let's be real. Right now, thanks to globalization and the internet, we are living in the most interconnected, mashed up, cosmopolitan age in the history of the world. Every culture, every belief system, every universal truth is just a click away from colliding with every other one. We're living in a Hellenistic age on steroids. So I'll leave you with this question. The great doubters of history, they use this amazing tool to question the absolute power of gods and kings. And it just makes you wonder, what are the sacred, unquestionable truths of our time that maybe, just maybe, aren't quite so certain after all?